The ships appeared without warning at the edge of the solar system. They were strange vessels, broken and burning, trailing debris like tears across the darkness of space. Inside the command center of the Earth Defense Force station, alarms screamed into the quiet night shift. Jake Morrison sat up straight in his captain's chair. He had been watching the stars through the view screen, thinking about his daughter back on Earth. Now his coffee sat forgotten as he stared at the sensor readings. 12 ships, no 15. All of them damaged. All of them dying. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Officer Tony Blake at the communication station. His voice shook slightly. "It's not in any language we know, but the computer is translating." Jake leaned forward. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was desperate and broken. It belonged to someone who had lost everything and was holding on to hope by a thread. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear enough. "This is Commander Zaleth of the Veleth people. Our home is gone. The Krell destroyed our world. We have been running for months. We have nowhere else to go. We are 2 million souls, please. We are not warriors. We are families. We have children. Please help us." The bridge fell silent. Jake looked at the faces of his crew. They were young, most of them. They had joined the Defense Force to protect Earth from threats, not to deal with alien refugees. But he saw the same thing in their eyes that he felt in his chest. These were people asking for help. "Send a response," Jake said. "Tell them we're coming to assist. And get me President Hayes on the line now." The next few hours moved like a storm. Jake's ship, the Sentinel, moved closer to the refugee fleet. Through the view screen, they could see the alien vessels more clearly now. They were beautiful in a strange way, built with curves and patterns that reminded Jake of seashells. But they were falling apart. Holes in the hulls, fires burning in the darkness, people dying with every passing minute. The crew worked fast. They sent over repair drones and medical supplies. They guided the refugee ships toward Mars Colony 7, which had the space and resources to handle an emergency. Jake watched it all happen and felt proud of his people. They didn't hesitate. They just helped. On Earth, President Linda Hayes stood in the emergency council chamber. She was a tall woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had led Earth through economic crashes and colony disputes, but nothing like this. The holographic display showed her the refugee fleet and the data streaming in about the Veleth people. "They're telling the truth," said Dr. Helen Carter, the xenobiologist who had been called in for consultation. She was young for her position, barely 30, with red hair pulled back in a practical bun. "Our scans show families, children. Their ships contain libraries, art, seeds from their world. These aren't invaders. They're survivors." Senator Greg Palmer slammed his hand on the table. He was an older man, heavy and red-faced. "And the moment we help them, we make enemies of whoever destroyed their world. We can't afford that. Earth comes first." "Earth is first," Linda said quietly. "And Earth stands for something. We don't turn away people who need help. We never have. I won't start now." The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would grant the Veleth temporary asylum. While they figured out a permanent solution, Mars Colony 7 would be converted into a refugee center. The Veleth would be fed, housed, and protected. When Commander Zaleth received the news, he wept. The translation software couldn't capture the sound exactly, but everyone who heard it understood. It was the sound of someone who had been drowning and finally reached air. The Veleth ships landed on Mars 3 days later. The colony's governor, a practical woman named Kate Stevens, had worked day and night to prepare. Warehouses became housing. The hydroponics bay expanded to triple size. Every spare bed, blanket, and meal pack was gathered and organized. When the first Veleth stepped off their ship, Kate was there to meet them. They were taller than humans, with skin that shimmered slightly blue in the light. Their eyes were large and dark, showing every emotion. They moved with a grace that seemed almost like dancing. Commander Zaleth approached Kate slowly. He carried a small child in his arms, a little one who couldn't have been more than 3 years old in human terms. The child's eyes were wide with fear and exhaustion. "Thank you," Zaleth said in broken English. The translation device on his collar helped, but he was trying to learn their language. "Thank you for our lives." Kate felt her throat tighten. She had 3 kids of her own back in the colony dome. She understood what it meant to want safety for your children. "You're welcome here," she said. "All of you." Over the next weeks, the colony transformed. The Veleth were quiet at first, staying in their assigned areas, afraid to take up too much space. But slowly they began to emerge. Velith children played with human children in the recreation domes. They didn't speak the same language yet, but they learned to laugh together. Dr. Helen Carter spent every day with the Velith, learning about them. She discovered they were scholars and artists. They had universities and museums on their lost world. They wrote poetry and studied mathematics. They were peaceful people who had never built weapons until the Krell came. They're so much like us, Helen told Jake during one of his visits to Mars. They stood watching Velith families walk through the colony gardens, touching earth plants with wonder. They love their children. They create beauty. They ask questions about the universe. The only difference is what we look like. Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. President Hayes is calling another council meeting tomorrow. They're going to decide what happens next. Temporary asylum or something more. It needs to be more, Helen said firmly. These people have nowhere to go. Their world is ash. The Krell are still hunting them. If we send them away, they die. It's that simple. The council meeting lasted 12 hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Senator Palmer warned about making enemies. Others worried about resources. But in the end, President Hayes stood and made her declaration. The Velith will be granted permanent citizenship in the United Earth government. We will help them build a new home. Luna Station will be converted into their city, designed by both our people and theirs. This is not charity. This is what we do for family. The news reached Mars within minutes. Kate Stevens was in the Central Plaza when the announcement played over the speakers. She watched the Velith around her begin to cry and embrace each other. Some fell to their knees. Others raised their hands to the sky, speaking prayers in their own language. Commander Zelith found Kate in the crowd. He said nothing, just put his hand over his heart, and what she had learned was a Velith gesture of deep respect and gratitude. Kate returned the gesture. On Luna, construction began immediately. Human and Velith engineers worked side by side, combining their knowledge. The Velith had technology humans had only dreamed about. Shields that could stop radiation and weapons, engines that ran on principles Earth scientists were still trying to understand. They shared it all freely. In return, humans taught them how to grow food in artificial environments. They showed them Earth music and movies. They invited them to festivals and holidays. The bond between the two species grew stronger every day, but in the darkness of deep space, the Krell Dominion watched. They had destroyed the Velith homeworld because the Velith refused to surrender their freedom. They had chased the refugees across 3 star systems to finish the job. And now they saw that humans had taken their prey under protection. The Krell Council made their decision. The humans would learn the price of defiance. They would learn what happened to those who stood between the Dominion and its will. War was coming to Earth, and humanity had no idea how terrible it would be. 6 months after the Velith arrived, Luna Station had become something beautiful. The new city rose from the moon's gray surface like a dream made real. Human architecture mixed with Velith design, creating buildings that curved and spiraled toward the stars. At night, the city glowed with soft blue light from Velith technology, visible from Earth as a new star on the moon's face. Lieutenant Amy Collins stood in the engineering bay of the old refugee ship that Commander Zelith had arrived in. She was a small woman with dark skin and quick hands, known throughout the Defense Force as someone who could fix anything. Next to her stood Drenth, a Velith engineer with the patient manner of someone who truly loved his work. Your shield technology is incredible, Amy said, studying the crystalline core that powered the Velith defensive systems. Our scientists have been working on this theory for 20 years. You actually made it work. Drenth's skin shimmered with what Amy had learned was pleasure. The Velith showed emotions through subtle color changes in their skin. It had taken humans a while to learn to read it, but now it was becoming second nature. Your weapons systems are equally impressive, Drenth replied in careful English. He was one of the fastest learners, already speaking better than most Velith. We never developed such things. We had no need, until we did, and then it was too late. They worked together for hours, combining Velith shields with human weapon platforms. The Defense Force ships were being upgraded one by one. If the Krell came, Earth would be ready, or at least more ready than before. On Earth, in a small town in Iowa called Riverside, the Bennett family sat down for dinner. The table was crowded now. There were the 4 Bennetts, Carl, his wife Susan, and their 2 boys, Danny and little Marcus. And there were the Velith family they had agreed to host. Preeth, his partner Millith, and their 3 children. At first it had been strange. The Velith didn't eat the same foods. They spoke a different language. Their children made sounds when they played that human ears weren't used to. But somehow it worked. The 2 families learned from each other. Preeth helped me fix the tractor today, Carl said, passing a bowl of vegetables. The Velith couldn't eat meat, but they loved earth vegetables. He showed me a technique with magnetic fields that doubled the efficiency. It's incredible. Preeth's skin glowed warm orange, the color of happiness. Your machines are clever, he said. Simple but effective. We made everything complex on our world. Sometimes simple is better. After dinner, Danny and the oldest Velith child, whose name Danny pronounced as Kree, went outside to look at the stars. Danny brought his telescope, the one his grandfather had given him. Kree brought star charts from his destroyed world, saved on a small device. That's our sun, Kree said, pointing to a spot on the chart that showed nothing but empty space now. It's gone. The Krell destroyed it. They broke our star. Danny didn't know what to say. How do you comfort someone whose entire world is gone? He was only 12. But he tried. You're here now. You're safe. My dad says that's what matters. Kree's skin flickered between sad blue and grateful pink. Your people gave us everything. We can never repay this. You don't have to repay it, Danny said firmly, the way his mother had taught him. That's not how it works. You're our neighbors now. That's what neighbors do. In Washington, Senator Palmer stood before the Earth Council, his face red with anger and fear. We need to face facts. The Krell Dominion has sent 3 messages demanding we surrender the Velith. Each message is more threatening than the last. They have 5,000 warships. We have 300. This is suicide. President Hayes listened to him finish before responding. Her voice was calm, which somehow made her words more powerful. Senator, what you're saying is true. The Krell are stronger. They could destroy us. But let me ask you something. Who do you want us to be? Do we become the kind of people who trade lives for safety? Do we tell the Velith children that we're sorry, but they're not worth protecting? Is that Earth? The chamber fell silent. Palmer had no answer. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted after his handling of the refugee crisis, addressed the council next. We're not fools. We know the odds. But we're also not sitting idle. The Velith have shared their technology. Our ships are stronger now. We're training a joint defense force. Velith don't know combat, but they're learning. And they're motivated. They know what happens if the Krell win. The council voted. Earth would not surrender the Velith. They would prepare for war instead. Dr. Helen Carter published her research on Velith culture. It spread across Earth's networks and into the colonies. People read about Velith poetry, mathematics, and art. Museums hosted exhibitions. In New York, a gallery showed Velith crystal sculptures that refracted light in patterns that seemed to move and breathe. Thousands came to see them. One piece was called Home Remembered. It showed a world of purple skies and silver oceans, all captured in crystal and light. A human woman stood in front of it for an hour, just watching it shift and change. When she finally left, she was crying. It's so beautiful, she told the Velith artist who had made it. I'm so sorry you lost it. The artist's skin turned deep blue with sorrow, but also pink with gratitude. Thank you for letting us remember it here. Thank you for giving us a place to grieve. On Mars Colony, Kate Stevens walked through the original refugee center. Most of the Velith had moved to Luna now, but some stayed on Mars. They liked the red planet. They were helping terraform it, using techniques from their lost world. Areas that had been dead rock were now growing with experimental plants. Governor Stevens called a Velith elder named Siranth. She was old, her skin faded to pale blue. She had been a teacher on the Velith homeworld. Now she taught Velith children and human children together. I wanted to show you something. She led Kate to a classroom where children of both species sat together. They were drawing pictures. The Velith children drew memories of their world. Purple skies, strange animals, cities of crystal. The human children drew earth, blue oceans, green forests, cities of steel and glass. But on some papers, the children were mixing them. Purple skies over Earth's oceans, crystal cities in Earth's forests, a new world that was both and neither. They're imagining the future, Siranth said softly. A future where both our peoples exist together, where we create something new. Kate felt her eyes burn with tears. It's beautiful. But even as the two species built their future together, the Krell were moving. Their armada gathered at the edge of known space. 5,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. They had given humanity a deadline, 1 month to surrender the Velith or face total destruction. In the Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Morrison gathered his commanders. Amy Collins was there, now promoted to commander for her work on the shield integration. So was Colonel Ryan Hughes, a veteran of the colony wars. They looked at the tactical displays and saw their doom written in numbers. "We can't win this," Ryan said quietly. "Not in a straight fight. We need to evacuate. Take the Velith and run to the outer colonies. Buy time." "Run where?" Amy asked. "The Krell have faster ships. They'll hunt us down. And what happens to Earth? To our families?" Jake looked at both of them. "We're not running, and we're not surrendering. The Velith came to us for protection. We gave them our word. That means something. That means everything. So we die," Ryan said. "It wasn't a question." "Maybe," Jake admitted. "But we die standing up. We die protecting people who trusted us. That's worth something." On Luna Station, Commander Zelith stood with High Scholar Merith, the leader of the Velith people. She was old and wise, her skin almost white with age. They looked out at Earth hanging in the sky, beautiful and blue. "We should surrender," Merith said. Her voice was heavy with sorrow. "We cannot let humanity die for us. It is too much. We are not worth this price." "You're thinking about making the offer," Zelith said. It wasn't a question. He knew her too well. "I must. It is the only moral choice. We came to them for help. We cannot let them be destroyed because of us." Zelith thought about his child, now learning to speak English and playing with human children. He thought about the Bennett family in Iowa, who had welcomed Velith families with open arms. He thought about Amy Collins working beside Drenth without hesitation or fear. "If you make that offer, they will refuse," he said. "These humans, they are strange. They choose honor over survival. They choose compassion over safety. I think that is what makes them beautiful. And terrifying." Merith made a sound like a sigh. "Then we will fight beside them. If they will die for us, the least we can do is die with them." The deadline approached. The Krell Armada moved closer. And on Earth and Luna and Mars, 2 species prepared for war. They didn't prepare because they thought they could win. They prepared because some things were worth fighting for, even if the fight seemed hopeless. In Riverside, Iowa, Danny Bennett and Kree looked at the stars together one last time before the war. "Are you scared?" Danny asked. "Yes," Kree admitted. "Are you?" "Yeah, but my dad says being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you are scared." Kree's skin glowed warm pink. "Your father is wise. Like the human Admiral Morrison. Like President Hayes, you have good people leading you." "We do," Danny agreed. Then he smiled. "And now you're one of us. So we have good people too." Ambassador Victoria Price stood before the Galactic Council and felt very small. The council chamber was enormous, built to accommodate 27 different species, each stranger than the last. Some breathed methane, others floated in tanks of liquid. One species existed as clouds of gas that somehow held consciousness, and all of them were staring at her. Victoria was a career diplomat. She had negotiated trade deals and peace treaties. She had ended conflicts and built alliances. But this was different. This was 27 species who had decided that one species' survival didn't matter enough to risk their own comfort. "The United Earth government requests the Council's intervention in the matter of the Krell aggression," Victoria said, keeping her voice steady. "The Velith are refugees fleeing genocide. Earth has granted them asylum, as is our right under the sanctuary laws. The Krell have threatened us with destruction if we do not surrender the Velith to them. This is an act of aggression that the Council must address." The Jael representative spoke first. The Jael looked like walking trees, tall and ancient. Their voice sounded like wind through branches. "The Council recognizes Earth's compassion. However, the Krell Dominion is too powerful. We cannot risk war with them. This is a matter between Earth and the Krell. The Council will not intervene." One by one, the other species agreed. The Methrin, who looked like giant insects. The Korath, beings made of living crystal. The Yendi, who communicated through color changes in their translucent bodies. All of them said the same thing. They sympathized, they understood, but they would not help. The Dravik representative, a species that looked almost human but with scales instead of skin, spoke last. "Earth is young. You have been in space for less than 2 centuries. You do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong survive, the weak hide. The foolish die protecting strangers. This is the way it has always been. Victoria felt anger burning in her chest. Then maybe it's time for the way things are to change. Maybe someone needs to stand up and say that strength without compassion is just cruelty. That survival without honor is just existence. Earth may be young, but we know what's right. And we will stand with the Velith, with or without your help. She left the chamber to silence. No applause, no support. Just the quiet agreement of 27 species that Earth would face the Krell alone. The news reached Earth within hours. President Hayes addressed the world from her office. Her face showed the weight of what was coming. The Galactic Council has refused to help us. We are alone in this. The Krell Armada is 6 days away. I won't lie to you. Our chances of survival are very small. Some of you will say we should surrender the Velith. Save ourselves. I understand that fear. But I ask you to remember who we are. We are the species that crossed oceans to explore new lands. We are the people who split the atom and walked on the moon. We are humanity, and we do not abandon those who trust us. If this is our last stand, then let it be a stand worth remembering. Across Earth, the response was immediate. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Factories that made civilian goods retooled to make weapons and ship parts. Scientists worked day and night on new defensive systems. Everyone contributed something. Money, time, skills, prayers. The whole planet prepared for war. On Luna Station, High Scholar Marith made her decision. She called for a broadcast that would reach all of human space. Victoria Price stood beside her, along with Commander Zelith, and President Hayes, who had come to Luna for this moment. Marith's image appeared on every screen, every display, every device across human civilization. Her voice, translated into dozens of human languages, was soft but firm. People of Earth, people of Mars, people of all the colonies. I am Marith, leader of the Velith people. You have shown us kindness beyond measure. You have given us homes. You have shared your food, your resources, your lives. You have treated us not as refugees but as family, and now you prepare to die defending us. She paused, and her skin flickered deep blue with sorrow. I cannot allow this. I offer now the surrender of all Velith people to the Krell Dominion. We will go quietly. We will not resist. We ask only that you live, that you survive, that your children see tomorrow. This is our gift to you, in return for all you have given us. The broadcast ended. For 3 seconds there was silence across human space. Then the response began. It started in New York, in a plaza where humans and Velith were watching the broadcast together. A human man shouted one word, "No!" Within seconds, hundreds joined him. Then thousands. The chant spread across the city, across Earth, across every human colony. A simple word repeated like a prayer or a battle cry. No. 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 On Luna Station, the communication systems overloaded with incoming messages. From Earth, from Mars, from space stations and mining colonies and research outposts, from soldiers and civilians, adults and children. The message was the same. No. We will not surrender you. No. You are family. No. We stand together. In Riverside, Iowa, the Bennett family stood with their Velith neighbors. Carl Bennett had tears running down his face. You're not going anywhere, he told Preeth. You hear me? You're home. This is home. Preeth's skin glowed with every color at once, emotions too complex for any single shade. We are not worth your lives. Let us decide what we're worth dying for, Susan Bennett said fiercely. You're our family now. You don't give up family. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the Defense Force headquarters. The tactical display showed his fleet gathering around Earth. 300 ships. It looked like so little against what was coming. But every ship was crewed by people who had volunteered. Who knew the odds? Who came anyway? Colonel Ryan Hughes approached him. The fleet is ready, sir. Everyone's in position. The Velith engineers have finished the shield upgrades. We're as prepared as we're going to be. Jake nodded. And the Krell? 4 days out. Maybe less if they push their engines. Jake looked at the display. Earth hung in the center, blue and green and beautiful. Luna Station glowed beside it. Mars was a red dot in the distance. This was home. This was everything worth protecting. Send a message to all ships, Jake said. Tell them this. We are the United Earth Defense Force. We stand between our home and those who would destroy it. We fight not because we think we can win, but because some things are worth fighting for. We fight for the Velith who trusted us. We fight for every human who believes that compassion is not weakness. We fight because we are humanity, and we do not surrender what we love. If we fall today, we fall protecting something beautiful. There is no better death. The message spread through the fleet. On every ship, crew members read it and understood. This wasn't about tactics or strategy anymore. This was about who they were as a species. This was about making a statement to the galaxy that some species still had souls. Commander Amy Collins stood on the bridge of the defense platform Meridian. Beside her was Drenth, the Velith engineer who had become her friend. Together they had upgraded the platform's shields to levels that shouldn't have been possible. Human weapons, Velith defense, a combination of two people's best technology. You should evacuate, Amy told Drenth. Get to one of the shelters. This platform will be in the front line. Drenth's skin glowed steady orange. Determination. I helped build these shields. I will stay to maintain them. Besides, where you fight, I fight. This is what friends do. Amy smiled. Yeah, I guess it is. On Earth, in cities and towns and villages, people went about preparing. Parents held their children. Lovers made promises. Strangers helped each other build shelters and stockpile supplies. The Velith worked alongside humans, contributing everything they could. No one was a refugee anymore. They were all just people, facing the darkness together. Danny Bennett sat with Cree on the roof of the barn. They could see the stars clearly from here, away from the town's lights. Somewhere up there, the Krell were coming. Somewhere up there, death was approaching at faster than light speed. I'm glad you came here, Danny said. I'm glad we met. Kree's skin flickered between sad blue and happy pink. I wish we had met differently. I wish my world still existed. But yes, I am glad too. You have been a good friend. We'll be okay, Danny said, trying to sound confident. Admiral Morrison has a plan. The shields will hold. We'll be okay. They both knew he was lying. But sometimes lies of comfort are kinder than truths of despair. On the 4th day, the Krell Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Sensors across human space detected them immediately. 5,000 warships, each one massive and bristling with weapons that had destroyed planets. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of death approaching Earth. The Krell commander sent one final message. It was broadcast across all channels, meant to break human resolve. Humans of Earth. This is your last opportunity. Surrender the Velith refugees within the next 6 hours, or we will destroy your world. We will burn your cities. We will shatter your moon. We will leave nothing but ash and silence. You cannot win. You cannot survive. Give us the Velith or die. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Horizon. Around him, his crew waited for orders. Outside the view screen, he could see Earth hanging in space. Home. Everything that mattered. He opened a channel to every ship in the fleet, to every defense platform, to every colony and station. The first shots were fired at 0600 hours Earth Standard Time. The Krell plasma cannons lit up the darkness like new stars being born. Each blast carried enough energy to vaporize a city block. They fired in waves, thousands of weapons speaking as one, turning space into an ocean of fire. Admiral Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as the horizon shuddered under the impact of near misses. The Velith shields held, glowing brilliant blue as they absorbed the energy, but he could see the power readings dropping. They couldn't take this kind of punishment forever. All fighters launch, he commanded. Pattern Delta 7, confuse their targeting systems, make them work for every hit. From the Horizon and every other carrier in the fleet, fighters streamed out like angry wasps. Human pilots trained since childhood for this moment flew patterns the Krell had never seen before. They wove between the massive Krell warships, too small and fast to target easily, striking at weapon systems and engine ports. Captain Lisa Morgan led the fighter squadron. Razor, she was 28 years old and had logged more flight hours than anyone in the defense force. Her hands moved across the controls, like she was playing music, dancing her fighter through space in impossible patterns. Razor 3 and 4 with me, she called over the comm. We're taking out that command carrier's forward guns. Stay tight and don't get brave. The 3 fighters dove toward a Krell warship the size of a small moon. Point defense fire filled the space around them with death. Lisa saw Razor 4 explode in a flash of light, gone in an instant. She kept flying. There was no time for grief. Not yet. They reached the command carrier and fired their missiles into the gun ports. Explosions rippled across the Krell ship's hull. It wasn't enough to destroy the ship, but it would be hours before those guns could fire again. Small victories. That's all they could hope for. On the defense platform Meridian, Commander Amy Collins watched her displays with growing horror. The human fleet was dying. Ship after ship went dark as Krell weapons found their targets. The mathematics were cruel and simple. The Krell could lose 20 ships for every human ship and still win easily. Shields down to 40%, Drenth reported from beside her. His skin was pale with fear, but his hands stayed steady on the controls. If we don't rotate the power cells soon, we'll lose the whole array. Do it, Amy ordered. And prep the backup generators. We're going to need every bit of power we have. Below them on Earth, people watched the battle unfold on screens and displays. In Riverside, Iowa, the Bennett family huddled together in their shelter. The adults tried to stay calm for the children, but everyone could see the truth in their faces. This wasn't going well. Carl Bennett held his youngest son Marcus close. The boy was only 6. He didn't really understand what was happening, but he knew everyone was scared.
Dad, are we going to die?
He asked in a small voice. Carl wanted to lie, wanted to promise everything would be fine, but he had always told his boys the truth. I don't know, buddy, but the good people up there are fighting real hard to keep us safe, and that's all anyone can do. Their best. On the horizon, Admiral Morrison's tactical officer called out damage reports in a steady stream. The carrier Defiant was gone. The cruiser Saturn's Pride was crippled and drifting. The destroyer line was down to half strength, and they had been fighting for less than an hour. Sir, the Krell are pushing toward the inner system, Colonel Ryan Hughes reported. His voice was tight with stress. They're going to bypass the main fleet and head straight for Earth. Jake made a decision. All remaining ships fall back to Earth orbit. We make our stand there. Tighten the formation. Make them fight through us if they want the planet. It was a retreat, but also a statement. The Krell would have to destroy every human ship if they wanted to reach Earth, and every ship they destroyed would cost them time and resources. Even in dying, humanity would fight. The Krell commander watched the humans fall back and felt something like respect. These primitives should have surrendered already. Any rational species would have. They were losing badly. Death was certain. Yet they kept fighting. It was foolish, admirable, and ultimately pointless. Continue the advance, the commander ordered. Destroy the human fleet, then the planet. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. On Luna Station, High Scholar Marith stood in the observation dome, watching the battle through telescopes and displays. Her people gathered around her, watching humanity die defending them. The guilt was almost physical, a weight pressing down on her old body. Commander Zelith appeared beside her. The Bennett family sent a message. They said to tell you that little Marcus drew a picture. He drew humans and Valeth holding hands under a big sun. He said it's what tomorrow will look like. Marith's skin flickered with every color of emotion. There may not be a tomorrow, not for any of us. Then let today matter, Zelith said quietly. Let what humanity is doing matter. They are teaching the galaxy something important. That some species still have honor, still have courage, still believe that protecting the weak is worth dying for. Back in the battle, Captain Lisa Morgan's fighter was running on backup power. Her shields were gone. Her weapons were down to 30% capacity. But she was still flying, still fighting. All Razor units form up on me, she called. One more run. We're taking out that flagship's bridge. Only 3 fighters responded. Her squadron had been 20 ships when the battle started. But those 3 stayed with her, following her into the heart of the Krell formation. They dodged fire, twisted through debris fields, pushed their engines past safe limits. They reached the Krell flagship. Lisa armed her last missiles and locked onto the bridge section. "For Earth," she whispered, and fired. The missiles struck home. The Krell flagship's bridge exploded in a bloom of fire. The massive ship began to drift, command systems destroyed. It would take the Krell hours to restore control. Hours that Earth desperately needed. Lisa tried to pull up to escape the explosion, but her fighter's engines finally gave out. She managed to eject just before her ship exploded. The escape pod tumbled through space, and she watched through the small window as the battle continued without her. On the horizon, Admiral Morrison saw the flagship go dark. "Who was that?" he demanded. "Who made that run?" "Captain Morgan, sir," the tactical officer reported. "Razor Squadron. She's the only survivor. We're tracking her escape pod." Jake felt pride and sorrow war in his chest. So many good people dying. So many brave souls giving everything. "Send a recovery team if we survive this." She earned a rescue. But survival was looking less likely by the minute. The horizon took another direct hit. The shields flared and died. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Power systems failed. Life support switched to backup. Jake pulled himself up from where the impact had thrown him. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. Around him, his crew worked frantically to keep the ship functional. "Hull breach on decks 5 through 7, Ryan reported. His voice was steady despite the chaos. "We've lost main engines. Shields are completely down. We're dead in space, sir." Jake looked at Earth through the view screen. Still beautiful. Still blue and green and worth everything. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel. Everyone else, keep fighting. As long as we have weapons, we use them." On Earth, in the Emergency Command Center, President Linda Hayes watched her fleet die. Each ship lost was hundreds of lives. Thousands of people who had volunteered to stand between their home and destruction. She wanted to scream, to cry, to rage against the unfairness of it all. Instead, she stood straight and kept her voice calm as she addressed the world one more time. "The fleet is falling. We always knew this might happen. But I want you to know something. I want every human, every Valeth, everyone hearing my voice to understand this. We chose this. We could have surrendered. We could have saved ourselves by sacrificing others. We didn't. We stood for something. We showed the galaxy that Earth stands with the helpless, that we protect those who trust us. Whatever happens next, that matters. We mattered." In the Riverside shelter, Carl Bennett held his family close. Preeth and his family were there too, pressed together with the humans. Two species different in every way, holding on to each other as the world shook from explosions in orbit. "I'm sorry," Preeth said, his skin deep blue with grief. "I'm so sorry we brought this to you." "Don't be," Susan Bennett said fiercely. "We made our choice. We'd make it again." Danny held Kree's hand. The two children sat together, not speaking, just being there for each other. If these were the last moments, at least they were together. In space, the Krell advanced. The human fleet was scattered and broken. Victory was minutes away. The Krell commander prepared the order to begin planetary bombardment. Earth would burn. The Veleth would be captured and executed. And the galaxy would remember what happened to those who defied the Dominion. But something unexpected happened. On the edges of the battle, sensors picked up new contacts. Ships emerging from hyperspace, dozens of them. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The Krell commander stared at his displays in confusion. These weren't human ships. These were Zithrine battlecruisers, Morithian Var platforms, Dravik destroyers, ships from a dozen species all converging on the battle. Admiral Morrison saw them too. His remaining tactical officer, a young woman named Kelly Price. The Zithrine fleet struck the Krell flank like a hammer. Their ships were older than human vessels, built with technology developed over thousands of years. When they opened fire, Krell shields that had seemed impenetrable began to fail. The Krell commander, who moments ago had been preparing for easy victory, suddenly found himself fighting a real war. On the crippled horizon, Admiral Jake Morrison watched his tactical displays light up with friendly contacts. Ships from species he had never even heard of were joining the battle. The Morithian war platforms, massive automated fortresses controlled by silicon-based intelligence, positioned themselves between Earth and the Krell advance. Their weapons fired in perfect mathematical patterns, creating overlapping fields of destruction. "How many?" Jake asked, his voice rough with emotion and exhaustion. Kelly Price worked her broken console. hands flying across controls that sparked and flickered.
Still counting, sir.
I'm reading at least 3,000 ships now. Maybe more. They're still coming through hyperspace. 3,000 ships. The odds had changed. Humanity was no longer alone. Commander Zelith stood on Luna Station beside High Scholar Marith, watching through the observation dome as the newcomer fleets tore into the Krell formation. His skin glowed with colors that humans had never seen before, emotions too complex for simple translation. They came, he whispered. The galaxy came for us. For humanity. Marith's old eyes were wet with tears that shimmered in the light. No. They came because humanity showed them what courage looks like. What sacrifice means. Your people shamed the galaxy into remembering its soul. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. In shelters and bunkers in cities and towns, people watched as the impossible happened. The reinforcements kept coming. The Dravik, who had told Ambassador Victoria Price that the strong survive and the weak hide, sent their fleet. Not to conquer, but to defend. In Riverside, Carl Bennett's emergency radio crackled with updates. The Krell are retreating. Say again, the Krell are in full retreat. We won, Earth is safe. The shelter erupted in noise. People crying, laughing, holding each other. Preeth and his family were surrounded by humans, everyone embracing. Species barriers forgotten in the joy of survival. Little Marcus Bennett climbed onto Kree's shoulders, both children laughing and shouting victory. Carl found himself shaking, the stress and fear of the past hours finally catching up to him. Susan held him as he sobbed with relief. We made it, she kept saying. We all made it. In space, the battle continued, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. The Krell had expected an easy massacre. Instead, they faced a united coalition of species who had remembered what it meant to stand for something. The Krell commander made the only logical choice. He ordered a full retreat, but the Allied forces didn't let them go easily. The Zithrene, remembering their lost colonies, pursued the Krell with fury. The battle became a rout. Krell ships that had seemed unstoppable hours ago now fled in disorder. Some surrendered, others fought to the last. By the end, the Krell had lost over half their armada. Admiral Morrison sat in his damaged command chair and watched the Krell flee. Around him, his bridge crew worked to keep the horizon functional. They had power. They had life support. They had survived. That was enough. Sir, we're being hailed by the Zithrene flagship, Kelly reported. Put them through. The Zithrene commander appeared on the view screen. Varenth was an impressive figure, tall and covered in what looked like scales made of metal. Their voice was deep and carried the weight of centuries. Admiral Morrison of Earth, your stand today will be remembered across the galaxy for generations. You showed us what we had forgotten, that there are things worth fighting for beyond our own survival. The Zithrene owe you a debt we can never fully repay. Jake shook his head slowly. You repaid it by coming. By standing with us when we needed it most. The debt is ours, Commander Varenth. Thank you. Over the next hours, recovery operations began. Ships that could still move worked to rescue survivors from destroyed vessels. Captain Lisa Morgan's escape pod was recovered by a Merithian platform. She was treated for minor injuries and immediately asked to return to duty. Her first question was about her squadron. When she learned she was the only survivor, she wept for her lost friends. The defense platform Meridian had survived, though barely. Commander Amy Collins and Drenth worked together to restore full power, their partnership unchanged by the battle. When the shields finally came back online at full strength, they looked at each other and smiled. We did it, Amy said. We actually did it. Drenth's skin glowed warm orange. We did it together. Human and Velith. That is how it should be. On Earth, President Linda Hayes addressed not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. The speech was broadcast across every network, translated into hundreds of languages. Today, the galaxy learned something important. We learned that courage is contagious, that standing up to bullies inspires others to stand as well. Earth and the Velith face certain death, but we refuse to compromise our values. We refuse to trade lives for safety. And because we stood firm, others found the strength to stand with us. This is the beginning of something new. A galaxy where protecting the weak is not foolishness but strength, where compassion is not weakness but courage. We invite all species to join us in this vision. Together we can build something better than what came before. The response was immediate. Species from across the galaxy reached out to Earth. Trade agreements, defense pacts, cultural exchanges. The humans who had been alone and unknown just months ago suddenly found themselves at the center of a new alliance. Ambassador Victoria Price returned to the Galactic Council. But this time she wasn't asking for help. She was proposing something radical. A new law. The Sanctuary Accords. The council chamber was packed. Species who had refused to help Earth now listened as Victoria laid out the proposal. Any species fleeing genocide would be granted protection by all member worlds. Any species who refused this protection would be expelled from the council. Any species who committed genocide would face united military action. The Dravik representative, who had once told Victoria that Earth was foolish, spoke first. Earth has taught us that the old ways are not sustainable, that we cannot claim to be civilized while allowing atrocities to continue unchallenged. The Dravik support the Sanctuary Accords. One by one, the other species agreed. Even those who had been neutral or cowardly found courage in Earth's example. The vote was unanimous. The Sanctuary Accords became galactic law. Weeks after the battle, a ceremony was held on Luna Station. The city was fully complete now, a beautiful blend of human and Velith architecture. Thousands gathered in the central plaza, humans and Velith standing together. A monument was unveiled. It was designed by both species, a work of art that combined human stone carving with Velith crystal work. The monument listed every name of every human and Velith who had died defending what they had built together. 17,000 humans, 4,000 Velith, 21,000 souls who had believed that some things were worth dying for. At the base of the monument was an inscription in both English and the Velith language. It read simply, "We do not abandon family." Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the monument with his daughter beside him. She was 15 now, old enough to understand what had happened, old enough to be proud of what her father had done. "Did you think you would die?" she asked him quietly. Jake considered the question honestly. "Yes, I thought we all would. But I also thought it was worth it. That protecting the Velith, showing the galaxy what Earth stands for, that mattered more than my life, more than any of our lives. Was it worth it? Losing so many people?" "I don't know," Jake admitted. "Ask me that question in 100 years, when human and Velith children are growing up together, never knowing a time when we weren't family. When the Sanctuary Accords have saved other species from genocide, when the galaxy has become a little bit kinder because of what we did, maybe then I'll know if it was worth it." In Riverside, Iowa, life returned to something like normal. The Bennett family and their Velith neighbors worked the farm together. Preeth's understanding of magnetic fields had tripled their crop yield. Carl's knowledge of earth plants had helped Preeth create a garden that grew both earth and Velith flowers. Danny and Kree were best friends now, inseparable. They went to school together, played together, dreamed together about the future. One night, sitting on the roof of the barn like they had before the battle, Kree spoke quietly. "I want to join the Defense Force when I'm old enough. I want to protect people the way humanity protected us." Danny nodded. "Me too, we could serve together. Human and Velith, just like the monument says." "Family," Kree said, his skin glowing warm pink. "Family," Danny agreed. Dr. Helen Carter published a new book. It wasn't about Velith biology or culture this time. It was about what happens when two species choose to stand together, how shared values create bonds stronger than biology, how the choice to protect each other had transformed both humans and Velith into something greater than they had been apart. The book became required reading across human space and eventually across the galaxy. Other species began to wonder if they could build similar bonds with their neighbors. The idea of multi-species cooperation, once seen as naive idealism, became practical reality.